Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 2nd of March, comes to you from London. And quite a mixed picture today. We're looking at energy at the end of this session. First of all, just looking at the main markets, a lot of red on the screen. So we're seeing sentiment, certainly in equities, less good. So we'll take a look at the charts and what that means. And remember that you can watch Charts Today just at chartstoday.com. And if you sign up there, then you get notified whenever this video comes out. I'm posting it in various places, but Charts Today is the place that it goes up first. So we're looking at the dollar index and still holding that ground just back below the 105 level. That is going to be an important level. That was previously support, now resistance, but that bounce on the weekly cloud quite key there. Remembering this is my weekly, my daily, and my 60-minute chart with the corresponding point and figure targets. These are log scale charts and the targets are generated. Note how this target here to 113 was met. You just cannot ignore the target. So we've got a mixed picture here, and we'll help you resolve what's going on in this session. So the euro is looking a little bit weaker against that stronger dollar. It recovered to hit cloud resistance. So what was cloud support for the dollar index is cloud resistance for the euro dollar. And we are just seeing we're still bullish in the medium term, coming back to test the cloud. So we've got two trends going on here, hitting resistance on the longer term trend, hitting support on the medium term trend, and the short term 60-minute chart shows us that we are bullish above the cloud. So the shorter term is winning out, but can it beat the long term? That's really what we're watching for when we watch trends breaking. Sterling is sitting just below the 120 level this morning against the dollar, again hitting cloud resistance there, so that's really quite significant. Looking at the medium term, we're just holding on to the bull trend, but we are short term back into bearish mode. And against the euro, we're through that 113 mark, sinking quite a bit lower yesterday. And we are seeing that euro strength just playing through against sterling, so looking weaker there, and that's quite interesting. Bitcoin sitting at 23,300, fairly static at this level. We've got to really break that 25,000 level to activate that target of 32,000. We do have a target of 30,150 activated and a short-term target of 25,144, which would of course then activate this bigger target. So that's what we're watching for. We do have a downside target not yet activated, and if you're trading Bitcoin, take a look at the 1-minute PNF charts and the real-time targets. Now the Nasdaq fell away yesterday, now quite decisively below that 12,000 point mark, having hit resistance on the weekly cloud. We're seeing that fall back, and short term we are bearish. Downside target there to 11,658, so lower to go yet, another 2.3% lower, so a few hundred points lower. Taking a look at the futures today, it's more of the same. So we're seeing the S&P future down 0.5% and the Nasdaq E-mini down 0.75%. So this relief rally that we saw at the start of the year is really coming under pressure now, and we are still in this long-term bear mode. We've been talking about that for months. These moves to lower highs, watch for the lower low. That's going to be really quite significant. The FTSE future is down this morning as well, just slightly, looking a bit stronger because it's not so tech laden as the US, and the DAX in Germany down 0.5% as well. So markets been hit generally across the board. The Hang Seng was down 1% almost. That's sinking lower, hitting cloud resistance, bearish on that short term and that long term chart, again hitting the cloud resistance there. You just cannot ignore these key levels. Looking at the Sensex in India, that was off just under 1%, and that's fallen back into negative territory or bearish territory on the daily cloud. So that is significant. We do have these long-term upside targets, but for the moment we are just pulling back in the Indian market. The Aussie market was slightly flat. I noticed that most of my Aussie stocks were up last night, so that's good news for me, but the reality is it's a tough market still to be making money in, and you've got to be very selective, choosing shares with upside targets above the clouds. That's the critical thing to be doing. Now we'll look at the energy mix in a minute. Looking gold, we are up slightly at that 1831 level, so we did hold that 1800 level just slightly on cloud support there on the medium term. And on the long term, that lagging line just on the above the cloud, and again just finding cloud support. So the key question is, can we go higher? We've got a target to 1869, 2% higher on the short term chart, some downside targets as well. Again, if you're trading gold, watch the 1 minute targets. That's going to be key. Silver sitting well below that $21 level, and that's still quite key. And the big news is that US 10-year yields are now above 4%. So we're pushing to all those targets: 405, 409, 420, 421, all those targets, and we've activated the upside target to 5.26%, some 31% higher. And of course, there's that very big target. So inflation is not going away, and the yields are a signal for that. We're bullish on all three time frames for the yields: lower bonds, higher yields. That's the environment that we're in. So really significant there. Now looking at the energy mix, we've got Brent crude up this morning. Interestingly, we called the market this morning. If we look at our report out, this goes out in the headlines there. If you look at the report to clients, you see here we called this bullish. And at the time, we were down about 0.4%, but the targets were telling us that we'd have a better day. And we've put out calls for emissions with all the targets as well. So if we go back to that, we see here that Brent crude is now climbing, pushing towards that upside target on the 1 minute. Here's the 60-minute chart, lots of upside targets. Looks like this crude oil pattern is going to break to the upside. So that's really quite interesting that we've got this pattern for crude oil really just waiting for the break here, and a move back above the daily cloud. We've got some upside targets here, a mixed set of targets. The move to new highs will resolve that. But for the moment, for today, that's the target we're aiming for. Again, if you're trading crude, keep an eye on the 1 minute targets. Looking at US nat gas, down 2% here. So looking a little bit weaker, just pulling back, but still bullish above that short-term cloud. But we've got some new targets kicking in since this morning. And if we look at emissions, we talked about that, down nearly 1%. This 96 level, which is what we identified in the report, this 96 level is absolutely critical. That's the level to watch. And of course, we also gave out our carbon report, giving the longer term targets, and you'll find that in your Updata system as well. So keep an eye on those targets for the medium to long term. But for the moment, we are pulling back on carbon for the short term. So this is the thing: falling in the very short term, medium term looking quite bullish, and long term looking very bullish, and you've got to resolve those targets. And of course, the picture changes all the time. That's the beauty of technical analysis. You can actually monitor how the picture's changing. We're seeing gas prices up this morning by 1%. We went out as neutral to clients because we had mixed targets here on the 1 minute charts, and the same for MVP. So just neutral for today, having nudged new lows yesterday. Watch for new targets being generated. Again, if you're trading gas, whether you're doing it on your Trayport, your Bloomberg, your Icon, whatever you're watching it on, EEX or Montel, then you need to be looking at those 1 minute point and figure targets. They're going to be absolutely critical to you. And looking at German power, and in fact looking at this from Montel, so we see here how we are below the cloud, just nudging those new lows. This is the daily, the 60-minute, and the 1 minute. These are percentage log scales, and then the 1 minute, just pulling that data through. And we see here we've got some downside targets, a bit of a high pole there, those low 140s beckoning. So that's going to be key. But most traders will be watching this carbon price today. That 96 level, pretty critical. We've seen buyers come in, the new target forming here, and we've got some downside targets. Watch for some new upside ones. Notice how this target has been generated and been met. So we've just got to keep an eye on that. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. Hang in there. Bye for now.